You know, I came to the epiphany that all games are fascist propaganda. Every single one of them. It explains why gamers are willing to accept all the authoritarian, sickening, privacy invading, corrosive, just despicable acts of their corporate masters. Why are people so willing to accept the fact that Valve has a monopoly on PC gaming through Steam and controls the entire sector of gaming by, if it's not on Steam, it basically doesn't get on PC. And even if it somehow does, they will sell it. Even if it's not on Steam directly, they'll find a way to sell it on Steam or some other shit. And when Steam is down, fuck you, you don't get to play any games. Kind of like Blizzard, but with Blizzard it only affects Blizzard games. With Steam, it affects all sorts of games. And the fact that Steam can delete your account whenever they want to, and with it your games that you paid for, and people just accept it. They accept the gun to their head. And I tried to think, is it human nature? Is it conditioning? Is it some combination thereof? And I'm still under the premise that it is somewhat the human condition, regardless of nurturing. But a lot of it is indoctrination. I'm going to list some examples of video games that have fascist undertones. In fact, this will be a little mini-series of mine explaining how different video games give a fascist message. Fable 2. We all know how much I hate Fable 2. And it has a very distinct fascist message. In Fable 2, it takes place a few years after, I say a few years, like 100 years after Fable 1. In Fable 1, the entire world was ran by heroes. Heroes were special people of special bloodlines. And after Fable 1, people had a revolution. Now, just because you have a revolution does not necessarily mean it's a progressive revolution. It can be a regressive revolution, as happened in Fable 2. Fable 2 became a confederacy, because every single town has its own laws, and it's all ran by martial law, and there's curfews and things like that. There's guards fucking everywhere, and this never occurred to the people playing Fable 2. No one playing Fable 2 ever bothered to question why the creators felt the need to incorporate this overly totalitarian regime and not delve into it. There's no explanation, there's no justification, it's just there. And I think that's the personal insertion of the developers' politics into Fable 2. Because why else would it get to the point where you get more evil points for pissing off a guard than you do actually doing something remotely evil? In fact, there really is nothing evil in Fable 2, only illegal. Because when you look at the storyline of Fable 2, it's very morally ambiguous. It mostly comes down to whether or not you are obeying the laws of the land. And that's very fascist in nature. So the entire premise of Fable 2 is a fascist revolution. They got away from royalty, which is still right-wing, to another form of right-wing. And at no point in between was there any margin of progressive thought. And then in Fable 3, it's even worse. Because in Fable 3, you have to, you take over the kingdom of your brother or whatever, only to find out that the only way to secure the lives of your people is to be an asshole, is to increase child labor, and to reduce benefits, and to basically be the biggest dick on the planet. How convenient. Again, it justifies that neoconservative, ultra-right-wing, authoritarian type of regime. And it's never really explained. It's just justified as, well, there's an even bigger evil afoot. Oh, like we haven't heard that excuse before. And this doesn't just apply to Fable 2 or the Fable franchise. This applies to many games. Look at Duke Nukem. Duke Nukem got its entire start from being this misogynist, ultra-libertarian, beer-swinging, just macho, chauvinistic asshole. And while that's not as overtly fascist as many games, libertarians and fascism go hand in hand. They are the peanut butter and jelly of each other. Gears of War. I don't think I even need to explain Gears of War. Gears of War is direct about it, and it's in your face. It even says that the entire government just collapsed, and they introduced military law, and that the Marines or Navy or whatever controls every sector of government, and they have this rigid fascist way of doing things, and it makes no qualms about hiding it. The same goes for Halo. In the future of Halo, everyone is controlled by the Navy sector, and that's why they get away with making the super soldiers that went batshit crazy and things like that. There are others, but I can't think of them at the moment. I think Bayonetta should be mentioned, even though I don't know the story of Bayonetta, but the very fact that you look at Bayonetta, it is clearly designed to be misogynist and to demean women, under the pretense of, oh, there's a female antagonist, see, we don't hate women, we're trying to appeal to the female audience. Now, if you were to just simply say there isn't as many women gamers as male gamers, and that's why you don't have female protagonists, and you're worried about fucking making money, and at least getting your name out there, so that's why you appeal more to men, I could understand that. That would at least be honest. You want your game to be known, and you're not going to be well known by targeting females specifically who do not make up a large portion of the gaming community. At least that's the theory, because I think there are more female gamers than they let on. But the point is, at least that would make sense. But no, they try to hide it behind this PC, well, it's hardly PC, but they try to hide it behind this veil, thin veil, that, oh, you know, well, there's women games out there, there's games that make women look strong and independent, and it's bullshit. She's just a fucking stripper. She's a stripper with magic powers. That's something out of a fucking porn movie. So you're paying $60 for a goddamn softcore porn that you actually have to work hard to see the titties. That's some bullshit. Why don't you just fucking steal that off the shelves? So, there are other ones, but I want to go more into detail into them of how they condition people to be fascists through the nature of the game mechanics, the metagame, as opposed to the storyline itself. Because the two games I'm about to mention in my next video do not actually have an underlining plot line. That's the thing. That's why I think it's an underhanded move designed to condition people to be this way. Because it's most averse in the games that are just for games itself. They're just to have fun. But there's nothing fun about them. It's a conditioning tool. So, I'll see you in a little bit.